So let's see if we are live on YouTube. Yes. Excellent. We are live. Hello. This is Bitcoin Libertarian. I am here with Immortal.
Hello, everybody.
And we are with our good friend, Batistoshi. How are you doing?
Doing great, Fernando. And yes, ready for another episode. And the mood is a bit down, but let's try to reassure and calm everybody. And yes, the bull is there. So I think we're ready to go.
I think that the mood is down if you don't understand the game we are playing. If you are a short-term trader, a short-term thinker, or someone who doesn't understand Bitcoin treasury companies, doesn't understand Bitcoin, your mood is down because, of course, prices are going down, everything is crashing. There are a lot of rumors that we are going to talk about later, that strategy getting liquidated and all this stuff. But if you know the fundamentals are solid. Mm-hmm. Everything looks really good from the fundamental side. And if you look the long term, everything is going to be great. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, well, this is unavoidable that during these crashes, the sentiment on the streets is really, really bad. That's where the term bloodbath or blood on the streets come from. Everybody with hands will start selling at this point. And I think part of our mission is to make people understand that the biggest mistake is to sell on a way down. Unless it's something, obviously, that you actually know is going down. But knowing the fundamentals of Bitcoin, the long-term vision, it will be seen as a very bad mistake to have sold your Bitcoin at 72K.
Of course. And as you said, our mission is, Jack Moller said in his live something like that. We as a Bitcoiners, we must work to keep this community going, to keep this community safe, and to not let people lose money, because many people that probably entered last year with Bitcoin over 100K, with strategy over $300 per share, now they are feeling pain, they are panicking, they are trying to sell, and we must say them, unless there is something that you cannot manage and you must sell, but now is the moment to accumulate. Of course, no financial advice.
Yeah, Fernando, and maybe we can start with the elephant in the room, that's strategy liquidation, strategy, kind of blowing up very quickly. Then for sure we will go in more detail also with Diego, but they have only 8 billion of convertible notes. The first maturity, maybe I can share it, so also the audience can see.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, for those who are watching on YouTube, I put a poll. Do you think that strategy will be liquidated in 2026? Yes or no? Let's measure the level of madness that we have in our audience.
Yeah, because as we can see here, the first maturity of the debt is 2028, and so it's more than 2 years because it's September 2028, and it's a relatively small tranche of 1 billion. Then they have the preferred, but as we know, the preferred, the principal is never coming back from strategy because it's an hybrid instrument. So technically, it's equity and not debt. So liquidation based on what? They also have 2.2 billion in USD reserves that they can easily, use for the preferred obligation, or even if needed, just to repay back any of those converts. But again, the first maturity tranche is in 2028 with a conversion price of 183, meaning that if just Bitcoin start to go and recover and strategy will recover, this can be easy in the money and so converted into equity. Maybe the only problem would be the Convert 29, which has a very high conversion price as of today with $672, and is probably the largest one of 3 billions. But again, it's a problem for December 2029 almost 4 years from now. So I really don't see why Saylor should get liquidated based on what? Just
Exactly.
because the stack is few billions in the red? I don't see any particular relevancy of calling, liquidation or bankruptcy for strategy. It's nonsense.
To be honest, when I read these people talking this bullshit, I don't know if they are ignorant, if they are looking for interactions.
Audience and engagement on social, I would say.
They want to make engagement on social media, or they are retarded. I don't know.
It's a group of people that are very used to trade Shiba Inu and PancakeSwap with the leverage of 125x. So their experience is, I put some money in Shiba Inu, I got liquidated when the price goes down to this level. The same thing must be happening to MicroStrategy because I heard they are leveraged.
Yes, and all the FUD that was being sold last week in English-speaking Twitter and on Spanish is even worse. When you go to Spanish language, nobody understands about that, and the FUD that they were selling is if Bitcoin goes to 76K, Saylor must be forced to sell all the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will crash even higher. So this is the narrative that you can see on Twitter. And again, I don't know if they are ignorant or if they are trying to search for some engagement to get monetized. But guys, just listen to the people who know about that. Just go to Saylor's Twitter. He bought more. Today he posted buy and hold. Again, you can agree with strategy, you can agree or disagree with Bitcoin treasury companies, but you need to understand the fundamentals.
Yeah, and Fernando, let me reiterate also another thing. In 2022, on the bottom of 2022, after FTX collapsed, strategy had more liabilities than asset. Today, they have 7x or maybe 6x the asset versus their liabilities. So, I mean, what are we talking about? There is zero liquidation on those claims. The first convert is in 2028. They prefer they have the dividend for 2+ years. They have 6x asset rather than their own liabilities. To me, talking about liquidation and bankruptcy in 2026 for strategy is stupid. It's very, we need to address it, yes, but it's very idiotic.
And imagine if they have to pay the debts now. Mm-hmm. And they are forced to sell Bitcoin now. They should have to sell a portion of their Bitcoin, not all the Bitcoin, to cover these $8.2 billion on debt.
The financial strength of strategies unmatched. There is probably very little things on the financial system that are built on such a strength system. To the fact that the presentation that we're going to see later is going to be trying to compare the financial strength of the most important country, the most successful country in history, the United States, versus strategy. We will see with numbers, just to pick up one of the comparisons that we can make, how strong is all the financial structure of strategy.
So let's move to some topics that we have to discuss previous to that. Let me share our presentation. Well, first news of the week. Smarter Web company starts trading on the London Stock Exchange. The Smarter Web company started trading yesterday on the main market of London Stock Exchange. Big congratulations to Andrew Webley. And again, this is another proof of power of Bitcoin and Bitcoin treasury companies. I also mentioned this in Spanish. Smarter Web company 1 year ago was a family-run business, a family-run business about web design. Was not MetaPlanet, was not strategy, was not a financial tech company, just a web design business, family-run. By adopting the Bitcoin strategy, they went to Aquis Stock Exchange in the UK, and now they are on the London Stock Exchange. So this is the power of Bitcoin treasury company, the adopting a Bitcoin as a treasury, and the power of conviction of a Bitcoiner when a company is run by a Bitcoiner like Andrew Webley.
Also, if this can be achieved during a technical bear market or during a time where Bitcoin is not helping at all, imagine what will be achieved in the next bull run.
So this is a point. All the companies, of course, no financial advice. When they ask, should we buy Bitcoin and have Bitcoin in our balance sheet? The answer is this. Look what things you can achieve by having Bitcoin in your balance sheet and going.
Should we buy Bitcoin today or tomorrow?
Sorry?
Should I buy Bitcoin today or tomorrow?
Always. Always. No financial advice.
Always. You should have bought yesterday.
Always. So congratulations to Andrew, to everyone who is there. So Binance is set to accumulate 1 billion in Bitcoin over the next 30 years.
30 days.
30 days, sorry. And our video, what happened? We lost our video.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't see you guys anymore.
Yeah, but okay. I don't know what happened. I don't see, but you can continue.
Yeah, I think, guys, this is very important for many reasons. So I think the first reason is that for sure Binance knows what's happening in the market more than probably all of us. They have 250 million users globally. They are the largest exchange on the planet. They are listed in all major markets, and they are very exposed with institution. They are exposed with the biggest order book globally. So I really think that when Binance say publicly that they start to accumulate more Bitcoin, it means to me only one thing. They know that the bottom should be close, should be very close. Because again, they have completely the data.
Wait, Marco.
Yep.
Wait a second, because we got screwed with the.
I think we don't have the camera, so you can let me. You can continue. You can continue explaining that.
Or should we reset and see he start the conversation again?
Let me check. I don't know what's going on because the camera is not taking the. Click here. Click again. I don't know why it's not showing the camera.
So how about reset?
So you can leave.
Guys? Guys, can you hear me?
No, no anda la cámara.
We can access your
we can access to the camera, so
Maybe, guys, you can switch with your laptop camera. It will be lower quality, but maybe it's gonna work.
let me check. The thing is that, see, the última, we can do with the laptop camera, we can open with your laptop.
I mean, that's the
And
beauty of live.
we are going to be seeing in a different way, but yes. Yeah. So let's, sorry for everyone who is on the other side.
The beauty of live, Fernando, it's fine. Can happen.
It's the beauty of live. The point is that we can continue, but you're not going to see us.
Nobody was going to see us.
So I put it there. So just leave this. No. Just.
Perfect. Yeah.
So can you hear Marco?
Yeah, I can see you guys and also hear you.
Excellent.
Can you listen to that?
There is some maybe background noise, but
yeah, motherfucker, the neighbor started doing
some crap, but no problem. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, so maybe I continue. I mean, maybe I will restart my point on Binance. Yeah.
Let's do. Binance is set to accumulate 1 billion in Bitcoin over the next 30 days.
So yeah, my idea is that it's pretty bullish for several reasons. So Binance is the largest exchange on the planet, has 250 million plus users. They have connection with institution. They have massive desk that can settle like big transactions. So every time I see like this big exchange deciding to buy, I think they have pretty good information to assess if we are close or not to a certain bottom. So I think this 1 billion over the next 30 days, in my opinion, is that they know that the bottom in Bitcoin and maybe also for crypto is close. And maybe it's around this $70,000 range. So they decided to swap 1 billion of excess reserve that they have in their own SAFU funds and to deploy for buying Bitcoin. So again, I think it's pretty positive to see the biggest exchange on the planet to allocate 1 more billion to Bitcoin.
Yes, I think so. I don't know what's your take on that.
I didn't understand the move at the beginning. Now that you explain it, it's more clear. Not sure if it is related to having any information about both. I don't think that they would be speculating with price action. Maybe just more something like a long-term plan, because lately CC was posting a lot of things more related to Bitcoin than to the shit coins that he used to post before. So maybe
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree.
Maybe something related to that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just to add, it's when you are like behind Binance and you have like all the data from order books, the flows, volumes, information with from small retail to large retail, institution, etc. I think for them they have a pretty good overview if it's a good moment to accumulate or not. They could have decided to do it last months, 2 months ago, or maybe next month. If they decided now, I think after the recent liquidation, etc., I think it should be like a pretty interesting zone. And to me, it's telling that it might be, again, we cannot say if this is the bottom or not, but for sure is a good time to accumulate because Binance had much more data, much more insight, much more connection and information from all the users and all the flows than us. So I think it's good to see. And maybe, as you said, Diego, it's just one allocation, might also not be relevant for the bottom or not, but anyway they decided to do 1 billion on Bitcoin only, so I think it's very positive.
Yeah, it's good news anyways.
Excellent. So let's move to the other. El Salvador is buying the dip. El Salvador just bought more Bitcoin. The new strategic Bitcoin reserve total 6,207.18 Bitcoin.
Yeah, once again, El Salvador, despite the IMF trying to dismantle the Bitcoin strategy and this acquisition, Bukele and the Bitcoin office in El Salvador, they are not stopping. They are buying 1 Bitcoin every day. Now I think it's more than 2 years, and now they have more than 6,000 BTC. And once again, I think it's great to see one small tiny country that now they're living in a much better situation than 5 years ago. They have adopted Bitcoin. They are very into orange pilling everybody, and I think it's a very good example. Leadership from the government to other maybe tiny countries that they can follow a similar playbook, similarly to what strategy is doing for companies. I think El Salvador and Bhutan can do the same and to give their own playbook in some sense to other small countries that wants to break free from debt, that they want to try to give a better situation from their own population. So I think when I see those kind of information, I'm very happy because I think it's real adoption and it's real education on Bitcoin on the highest level possible, which is like government and leadership.
Yeah, of course. I think so. So yeah, I think that any of these is good for Bitcoin. El Salvador, there was a big, the other day, controversy because El Salvador announced that they were going to buy gold. They bought gold. I don't know what happened, and people were complaining about that. So
yeah,
I
but
don't know.
They bought gold also, in as a complement to the Bitcoin strategy. They didn't say I stopped buying Bitcoin or I sold my Bitcoin to buy gold. They decided, and I think it's very logical for nation state also to have a position in gold. So they are keep buying 1 BTC per day, and they decided to allocate 50 million on gold. it's not should not be one to exclude the other one. Should be more complementary, and over time, Bitcoin will be higher than gold for all the metrics. But I don't see as a contrast. I'm not against the gold guys. I think both assets are very useful in this case of debasement. And for nation state, gold makes more sense as of today. In 10 years or 20 years, I think Bitcoin will be probably more relevant. But as of today, I don't see any problem in also buying gold.
Yeah, plus it's a country that you...
Yeah.
I would be pissed if Saylor buys gold. But it's a country, the country has different rules. So probably they have to keep their gold reserves for some regulation or something.
As a financial advisor in Argentina, should say that you got buy gold to strengthen the currency.
Yeah, to back the currency. So it's incredible. So
yeah,
anyways,
and sorry guys, before moving to the next one, just to put in perspective, they have 650 million in Bitcoin. So this acquisition of gold is like less than 1/10 on the position on Bitcoin. So I think it's okay, and I'm not mad if they want also to buy gold.
No, I don't think it's a problem for people. For Bitcoiners in general, it's not. For me particularly, it's not a big deal. But maybe some ultra Bitcoin maxis might take it as a betrayal on the Bitcoin ETH or something like that. In any case, what is also interesting to point out is that in 2020 was when El Salvador adopted Bitcoin, or 2021?
2021.
In 2021. So there was for several months talk that El Salvador is going to be putting Bitcoin as legal tender. The first day when they bought, and I remember the day, Bitcoin was at 50K or something. It drops to 45. So the next day, Bukele tweet, should I buy the dip? And I think the same happened this time. Didn't he bought gold the day before the crash?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, the thing is that the countries are different from person and from company. I'm sure that if they bought gold is because they must buy gold. And the last one, strategy is not stopping 2,000 plus days since they adopted the Bitcoin standard. And even though today the returns are a little bit lower, I think it's now 978% up the share price of strategy since adopting the Bitcoin the Bitcoin standard. So, and this is another thing that most of the analysts say, Saylor spent 50-something billion US dollars, and now it's only 1% up in his investment. The price of the share.
Two different things.
So
totally different things, yes.
Anyway, so I'm stopped. Have you anything else to say, Marco?
No, I think we covered the first, information that we wanted to say. So I think you can go on, guys, with the other presentation.
Let me stop here the presentation. Let me send a big shout out to Comeniaco. He's a guy that follows us, our daily show in Spanish, and now he's watching the show in English. He's living in Australia. And he said, per me è più facile se parliamo in italiano.
Nessun problema.
Nessun problema, perché io studio con il Duolingo, ma
bravo,
non molto fluente.
I'm out of Italian, guys. Sorry.
By the end of the year, I think that we are going to record a podcast with Marco.
We can do one in Italian, Fernando. Yes, we can.
We can do one in Italian. So let's move to the topic that we have here. Let me share the screen. Sorry, guys, for the mess up on the production side, but it is what it is. Okay, that's the shares.
So as mentioned before, what we wanted to compare or point out is the strength of the balance sheet of strategy compared to anything else on the financial market. So we pick up the strongest horse on this race, which should be the American government, right? It's the only government that survived any other government since the world wars. So it could be considered the winner of this financial race. They imposed the dollar on everything else. So it could be considered the strongest economy, right? So this is a comparative analysis of value generation per dollar of debt. So it's an analysis of the debt productivity, how much each dollar of debt impact on the balance sheet and the overall influence on the structure of the system. So to understand that there is two diversion models. One, the United States focus on funding consumption, past obligations, and basically the physical debt of the government. So as a result, they have a negative yield. Everything that is produced as a GDP is less than the amount of debt that they have to issue to fulfill government obligation. So there is a cost of production. On the other side, MicroStrategy focus on acquiring scarce asset, digital capital as Bitcoin, on an accretive matter. So the dev in this case is working as an engine to promote growth. So as a definition, we have what is the dev productivity? What is, in this case, considered for this ratio? So the value generated by the asset growth, in the case of the country, it could be the GDP. In the case of MicroStrategy, it could be the productivity of the Bitcoin holdings, or in other words, the CAGR, the annual CAGR of the Bitcoin holdings, of the asset they are holding, divided the cost of the debt, the interest on the debt they are paying. So for the US, it's basically the fiscal deficit that they have to actually print as money, which is, at the time we do this presentation, it was 1.2 trillion. Now I was checking recently, I think it's around 1.7 trillion. On the other hand, what is the debt for strategy? It's this 8.2 billion, which is the convertible bonds that were the former instruments used to propose the strategy growth, plus also the dividend payments from the preferred stock instruments. So the metric number one is the solvency and the leverage. As per 2025, the American government had 38.5 trillion in debt, with the base value of GDP of 31.8 trillion, which put us as a solvency ratio of 120, 130%. Not the biggest one, as we know, this ratio for Japan is over 200%, which is even worse. But the Japanese structure is a little bit different because Japan had more assets, or the debt is owned to themselves usually. So it's, even though it's higher, it's not as heavy as this. Anyways, it's 120, 130. For the rest of the countries, even for developed countries, it's around 70 or 8, something like that. In the case of strategy, we have a total debt of 8.2 billions with 54, 55 billions in asset, which is the value of the Bitcoin holding as per now. Obviously, these numbers are moving day in, day out, but that is the ratio, and this put us on a debt to asset ratio of somewhere between 11 to 15%.
Let me point one thing from an economic point of view. Of course, it's a good comparison, the debt to asset and the debt to GDP. But the debt to GDP, the GDP of a country is all the production of all the economy in the country. It's not the money of the government.
Correct.
From this 31.8 trillion, US dollars of GDP of United States of America, a small portion, I think that it's 6 or 7 trillion, is the actual income of the government.
That's what we're gonna see on the next slide, which is this is not a very fair comparison, but it's just to illustrate the size of the debt and GDP ratios. So most of the on the strategy side, it's the equity is Bitcoin, and there is a fraction which is this 11 to 15% as debt. In the case of the U.S. economy, the surplus, or what it's not a surplus actually, what is produced as revenue, which is the tax money coming in, is a very tiny fraction. It's 5.5 trillion compared to the 38 trillion debt. So in a pie chart, it might look like that. So the metric 2 is the interest coverage, which is, this is what Fernando pointed out. So you have a 1.2 or 1.7 trillion, depending when you take this screenshot, in debt for the US, with a revenue and income of 5 trillion. That ratio is around between 25 and 30%, which means for every dollar that the government have to print out in the Fed, 25, 30% of it is used to pay that that debt. For every dollar of revenue, 25% has to be used to pay the debt. In the case of strategy, this number is also not really updated. 89 million when we take this screenshot, as per today is 888 million, which is the actual dividend payments. And now if you take this ratio, the 888 millions in dividend payment, which is part of the recurrent annual debt that strategy have, you will have the income part of the balance sheet of strategy, which could be the $55 billion in assets at the CAGR of the Bitcoin asset, which historically has been 40%. So it could be something around 22, let's say 20 billion in recurrent income produced by the balance sheet, compared to the 888 million, that is less than, is between 2 and 3% of the debt. So try to match up apples with apples. In this case, is the debt in one case it's 2.5% of the income, on the other side is 25 to 30% of the income. So different way to see the same thing here, it's that the cost of debt in the case of strategies choose 2 to 3 cents for each dollar that they actually get in the market, while the other 97, 98% goes straight into the asset for the holdings. While in the case of the US government, 75% goes to pay for government service and 25% goes to pay the interest rates. As an overall metric, the strategy is creating this Bitcoin yield, which is around 25, 26%, which is accretive to the Bitcoin for the shareholders of strategy, while the American government has this debt spiral where the debt is not repayable. It's at the negative rate of 0.86 at this time, which is something roughly as to calculating what is the GDP versus how much interest they are paying on the debt, right? So while one is using the balance sheet to grow, the other one is using the debt to enter into this debt spiral collapse. And just to compare the item by item, is the type of asset. In one case is the fiat, which is inflationary. On the strategy side is Bitcoin, which is deflationary. Strategy the strategy is funding deficit, while on the MicroStrategy side is acquiring asset for the reserve. The result is, and the risk is that the US government is in a spiral debt, while strategy is on a growth path with short-term volatility. The impact for the holder, let's say for the US citizen, is reflected as the loss of purchasing power, while for the strategy holder, obviously talking in the long term, not what happened last year, is an increase in the value per share and overall growth of the portfolio. Paradoxically, one with the fiat deflationary money, fund deficit, debt spiral, and losing of purchase power have a rating of AA+, while the other one with the deflationary currency and increase in the value per share, it has a B negative rating so far. So that's just to point out to the discrepancies on the market.
And I really like the sustained by the printer on the rating.
It is what it is. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's very on point.
So the overall vision is that strategy is the digital credit factory. MicroStrategy convert melting fiat ice cube into capitalizing capital. The raw material is the fiat debt, as much fiat as they can get, process it as an arbitrage, buying Bitcoin, holding it as in the balance sheet, and then also create these digital products like Stretch, Strike, and all the other ones that serves to fulfill a market need, especially for big funds, where they can now have a product with lower volatility and fixed income that otherwise they will not be able to invest in, for example, if they would try to do it straight away on Bitcoin. Not only because of the Bitcoin volatility, but because of the Bitcoin size, actually. Right? Still, Bitcoin is a very small asset for a sovereign fund to put trillions over there. And the asset is barely 1.5 to 2 trillions. And the final conclusion is the two destinies is the US face a negative debt spiral, is that sinking ship where the productivity is coming down at a rhythm of negative 0.86%, while MicroStrategy use intelligence leverage to capture growth and produce a 26% capitalization on the balance sheet. And that's pretty much it. It's just one comparison for the strength of the balance sheet. So when people talk about liquidation risk, the average purchase price of Bitcoin, nothing has to do with the growth of the two systems, right? Which is at the end of the day what we are measuring.
Yes, and again, pointing out that when that is not only happening in the United States, this happens in every country of the world.
In every country is worse. So that's why I pick up the US, because that would be the best horse that you can put against MicroStrategy.
Exactly. And again, I repeat the debt to GDP ratio. That is not the income of the United States. The income is like 5-6 trillion. So if you measure the income with the debt, you are gonna see that the debt is not gonna be paid. Never. Nobody is gonna pay the.
Yes, not much talk. It's very common to hear this ratio of the 120 debt to GDP, but how about the income versus debt? That is more shocking. It's almost 25-30%.
Yes, that's the point. So I think that we give people some insight on why strategy is not going to be liquidated. Of course, now with the price of Bitcoin like this, everyone, and I'm repeating that, Saylor is being kicked because he's on the floor. but in a couple of months or years, he's gonna be point like a genius.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I really like the presentation, guys. Very interesting, especially the part of, as you said, about also clarifying that the GDP of the United States is different from the GDP of the federal government. And so sometimes people might have this kind of illusion that is not that bad. Actually, it's pretty bad if you only account the debt on the portion of income that the federal government of the US has. And also the final slide with the negative 0.86% for the USA and the positive 26% of strategy. And again, the United States of America is probably the top 10 or top 5 government and power of state and the economy. So all the other countries are much worse. So probably if you run the similar exercise on other tiny or smaller countries, you will see that probably is much lower than 0.86, might be -3, -4, -5.
Yeah.
So again, I think strategy is unique. What has been done over the last now 6 years has been incredible. And again, speaking about liquidation with a company that has less than 15% of debt versus the total asset is very, very silly. And again, I think strategy is teaching to the finance world that we need to focus less only on the income, only on the P&L of the company, but we should go back more to the balance sheet. We should go back more to the Austrian side of economy and focus less on the more recent debt and credit cycles. So I think strategy is reshaping finance to its head and say, look, guys, it's more important to have a very strong balance sheet so that you can also sustain 5 or 10 years of lower income. But if you don't have a strong balance sheet, after 12 months, you are dead. So I think people don't completely misunderstand this concept. Strategy is one of the most capitalized company on the planet. So to me, it's like one of the safest company on the planet, not one of the riskiest one. Because again, it's the company with more net asset. Yeah.
Maybe we can run a similar comparison with some other company, maybe one of the Mag 7s, to compare balance sheet, income. The difference here is that in traditional finance, this concept of the income produced by the balance sheet it's going to be considered, that's not income, right? You need to sell iPhones to be considered income. Well, actually, it's debatable because at the end of the day, is it growth or not?
Yeah.
Which is, why do you sell iPhones? You sell iPhones to grow your company. So you can either produce income by selling iPhones, or you can produce income by selling financial products that produce a similar growth. So at the end of the day, that's the part that is very misunderstood so far. And once that is more clear, I think it's going to be obvious that strategy has the best strategy.
And maybe also on top, if we do like a comparison with like a Mag 7 stock, if you go and check the balance sheet side of those companies, the large part could be intellectual properties, other part would be buildings, other part would be some kind of very opaque or arbitrary in valuation, and they're not very easy to liquidate. Whereas if you go on strategy, they have like 60 billion of Bitcoin. They can sell potentially everything in one click. So again, the complexity for like majority of people is that they still believe that it's better to own a real estate or a building of 20 years old with problem with leakage or other stuff, rather than having the most liquidable asset class on the planet. So again, it's not only the quality, but it's also important for me to understand that when we compare strategy to other companies, the balance sheet is possible. For them, it's possible to liquidate in one click. The other company might go in, 24 months of lawyers, valuation, and finding a buyer. Because if you don't find a buyer, for your, I don't know, big data center in Texas, or for your, I don't know, office building in San Francisco. During COVID, they had like minus 90% in valuation for real estate in San Francisco. So your balance sheet actually is much weaker than you think. Whereas on Bitcoin, you can liquidate now, the price, you know it, boom, it's done. So again, it's completely different, and most people don't realize. And but I think it's a transition to a new way of thinking, that now balance sheet is more important than the P&L. It needs to be.
Yeah.
It makes more sense.
It's still going to be hard to prove that point when the prices are at this stage. I think we need to wait until the next bull run, because people will listen when the price heads up. As usually we say, the best marketing tool for Bitcoin is the price. So probably the same will happen with the Bitcoin treasury companies. The prices need to come up for us to deliver this message of understanding the different structures on the old TradFi structure with this new Bitcoin treasury company structures. And at that point, maybe we can deliver a more efficient message. For now, it's going to be tough, but we are doing the exercise to prove it with different analogies and examples the easiest way that we can.
Yeah, and at that time, we are going to fix the problems with the camera, with the computer, with everything, so we can send a show without changes in the middle. So that's another thing.
I think we are facing the bear market too here in the studio.
It is what it is.
Bear market everywhere, guys.
But again, like, if we are streaming every day, so it has failed few times only. But let's try to find a solution and probably an alternative, so don't have to go that. But anyways, the show is going, so people is voting.
Quickly, guys, and it's okay.
Let me check on YouTube. Everyone voted that strategy is not gonna be liquidated in 2026.
Thank God.
People understood.
Yeah.
So I think that we covered everything that we have to cover. Strategy call is on Friday for us. Is on Tuesday, Thursday.
I think was I think it's on 4th, but at 17 in the US East Coast, so should be 5th in the morning for Hong Kong and for us.
No, let me check. I think it's 5th. February 5 p.m. Eastern time, our Q4 earnings call. We'll discuss our Q4 financial results, the evolution of digital credit, and our capital market strategy. We will also host a live Q&A with guests to be announced soon.
So that's Friday morning in Hong Kong?
Friday, 6 a.m. in Hong Kong. I think I will be streaming by myself. I don't know if you are going to join.
I will let you know, Fernando, but if I can, yes.
What about you?
We'll see. Tough week.
Yeah, tough week. But 6 a.m. Let's see.
It's going to be an interesting call. Because,
it was much easier to wake up at 5 or 4 in the morning when MSTR was like pumping with green candles. Is a bit more complicated to wake up when it's -7 every day, but I will let you know.
I am going to be there because I think, of course, we all have anyone has the problems. But if we cover when was the super hype, remember that day that was super hype, that I even bought like a call, something like that, thinking that the price was going to go super up after the earning call. I think that I have to be now because
I agree.
It's easy to support the team when
everything is green or everything is going. Yeah, I agree.
When everything is going, I think now is the time that all of us that we believe in what Saylor and all the other treasury companies are doing, with all of us that we are in the Bitcoin community, that we believe that Bitcoin as a tool to change financial system of the world and give humanity hope, I think that we must be there supporting. Otherwise, you're asshole like the guy of what Bitcoin did. I hope this asshole is not going to be on the Q&A. I hope the Q&A is full with amazing people like Adam Livingstone, Tim Kosman, and all the other guys that are doing a great job.
It'll be interesting to see what is the angle this time, because I don't think they were expecting such a crash for this call. So they for sure they will come up with something new, something that actually gives some light on this call. Yes. I don't think it's going to be just some reading of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but yes.
Yeah, no, very quickly. If we think now Bitcoin is almost down 40% from the October 6th high at 126,000. So what we should expect from strategy? I would say if we see that strategy is like a long levered bet on Bitcoin, like a 1.5 or 2x, if Bitcoin is down minus 40, strategy should be around minus 60, 65.
It is.
If Bitcoin goes up, now I think it's minus 70, which maybe, yes, a bit more than the minus 60 that I might have expected if Bitcoin was down minus 40. But it's also true that strategy is the proxy in which all the markets bet. They bet for like the put, the bet on the derivatives market. So I think sometimes it might be even more underwater, because all the big player and the institution decided instead of doing derivatives on IBIT, do derivatives on MSTR. But again, if Bitcoin is minus 40, strategy should be minus 60, minus 65. It's minus 70. It sucks, but it is what it is.
1 year return is minus 62. 3 months is minus 50. And the point is that since they adopted the Bitcoin treasury strategy, they are up 978.
Actually, I think if we do this since January 16, strategy versus Bitcoin, the trend goes up. I haven't checked this, but I think that's the case, which is held stronger than Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to talk too much because I didn't actually verify. But I think that's the case. You can see it on if we take the 3 months return minus 50 when Bitcoin was minus 40, we say. So see, it's not that much. We should expect a 50-70% difference on the way down and on the way up, and it's only 10 different, which means it's performing stronger than it should. But overall, this is just hypothesis.
Yeah, I think and we cannot expect strategy to overperform Bitcoin on the green and don't underperform in the red. It makes no sense. It's a levered play, so it's much more volatile and oscillating more than the underlying. So if we want to beat Bitcoin on the way up, we should also think that should underperform quite strongly Bitcoin on the way down, because it's how the whole business model and strategy operation. So it sucks, but I think it was pretty normal to see minus 60 or 65 if Bitcoin is minus 40.
I think nobody expected the minus 40 on Bitcoin. I mean, nobody.
Yeah, that's another thing, but I think strategy is not broken, because we should have expected something similar if the underlying is performing poorly. Yeah.
And also the fact that they keep raising money even under these conditions. So imagine what it's going to be when Bitcoin goes up 40% and strategy goes up 80 or 100%. The amount of capital raising will be
insane. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's all for today. Let's see. I will be on the call of strategy. Let's see if you guys can join. Otherwise, see you next week.
All right.
Yeah.
So we can close.
Thank you, Diego. Fernando.
Thank you, Marco.
We can close thank you very much to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media, and follow also Marco on social media. That is
Batistoshi93 on X. So feel free to join.
Excellent. Guys, thank you very much for your time. See you next
See
week.
you next one.
Bye-bye.
See you.